Hi guys, and first of all, Happy New Year. So as we've kind of finished up with 2017, it was a crazy year. I thought it would be cool to kind of have a look at the 10 records that have been definitely confirmed for 2018, which will be released later on this year. That's really shit, isn't it? So the first one is Pig Destroyer. But it's been 6 years since they released Bookburner, and I mean, technically, you know, yesterday it was 5 years, and now today it's 6 years, but 6 years is a seriously long time, man. But I would imagine that it's probably going to look for like maybe a summer release from Relapse. So next up is my favourite grindcore band ever, Napalm Death. They're well, I don't know if they're currently in the studio, but they have been in the studio with Russ Russell, and I don't know if it's going to come out this year, but I hope it does, because I know previously on Apex Predator they did like these little sessions to kind of make sure that they kept that sort of aggression. Anything that Napalm Death put out is always brilliant. You know, they're top of the kind of grindcore food chain for a reason, aren't they? Next up is Nile. So obviously they've lost Dallas Toler Wade, who was a big kind of part of the band, you know, vocally and also playing guitar. As far as I know, they've got something in the works at least. But it will be really interesting to see what his replacement kind of brings to the fold, and if it's going to be a lot more Carl Sanders oriented, or, you know, What Should Not Be Unearthed was like really heavy and just a really solid record. So yeah, that'll be really interesting. And afterwards we've got Behemoth, who are releasing their first record in 4 years. It's mad to think that's 4 years ago, isn't it? Yeah, that's going to be really interesting, especially, you know, the whole Me and That Man thing with Nergal kind of trying out different things. I don't know, it'd just be interesting to see where they kind of take it from what they had done conceptually with The Satanist. The Ocean released one of my favourite albums, which was Pelagial. I think it was out in 2012 or something like that. And the sheer concept behind that, I mean, having a concept of, you know, it being the different layers of the ocean, and then whilst you go through the album, music matches the heaviness of what the kind of depths in the water is. I thought that was so cool. We might see things we've not really heard before. So I think that's going to be really interesting as well. Then you've got At the Gates. Who will be releasing an album hopefully very soon. I can't remember if they've finished tracking, but I know they were tracking in the studio. And it's going to be the first album without Anders Bjorla. So that's going to be really interesting because, you know, obviously he's been with the band since day one. The riffs are always kind of like a really solid element of At the Gates' songwriting. So that's going to be really interesting, especially because At War with Reality was absolutely incredible. I've seen on Dan Briggs's Instagram that there are test presses of the record, so it is there. It's almost tangible. So it'll be interesting to see where they kind of go from what they did with Coma Ecliptic, because I think that was the most kind of comprehensive sort of thing that they've had to date, really. And like, if you look from how far they've come from, even from Alaska or Silent Circus, it's like a totally different band now. So I don't know, you know, will there be any harsh vocals? Will it be completely clean vocals? Who knows? And then we've got Skeleton Witch. And at first I wasn't too sure about what Adam Clemens, the new vocalist, would be like, but I actually really enjoyed the EP. It's got some absolutely classic Skeleton Witch style riff writing, and you know, it almost feels like Skeleton Witch are Iron Maiden's little brother, who's sort of gotten a little bit into black metal and death metal at the same time. But I think that he added a real new interesting dynamic to it. So it'll be really interesting to see what they kind of bring out with a full length. Moving on, we've got Ghost. Who sadly didn't release their new album last year like I thought they would. They released the new live album, Ceremony and Devotion. But there was also this whole thing of Papa Emeritus. I think his like new persona was unveiled, which is an old Pope guy. So it'll be interesting to see what the whole kind of theme is. They're quite a polarizing band. I've heard a lot of people kind of say you either love them or you hate them. And for a long time, I wasn't really too sure about them. But then I saw their set at Bloodstock, and they were easily one of the best bands I've seen this year live. But finally, probably my most anticipated record is A Perfect Circle's new album.
Behold the new Christ, behold the same old horde. Gather at the altar.
Like, man, I've not really listened to Perfect Circle before, so I'm trying to kind of like get into the vibe of A Perfect Circle before this record is released. If you guys have any recommendations, I'd love to hear them for what kind of songs would be good, what album to start off with maybe. I've literally just listened to Disillusioned, the second song, but I remember when The Doomed came out, and I listened to it for the first time, and obviously the first thing that I sort of hooked onto was Maynard's vocals. I think it's just going to be such an interesting record. It's almost going to be like, how good Anathema's The Optimist was last year, in this kind of like cinematic sort of sense. But yeah, so those are 10 of my most anticipated albums. I'd love to hear what you guys are really looking forward to. And so if you like this video, please make sure you give me a like and click that subscribe button, and I will see you guys for the next one. Happy New Year and peace!